Well, y'all, I got a real special guest. Jordyn Slaughter joins us from the University of Illinois, currently doing his pre-draft workups, workouts, interviews, all that goofy stuff. Jordyn had made some time for us to come out and, talk about his career at Illinois, but more importantly, to talk about himself as a man and what he brings to the NFL. Jordyn, thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
I think, first off, regardless of the measurables, you checked it off with the name.
Yeah,
Jordyn Slaughter's a pretty good
Yeah, I've been hearing that since high school. Everybody, as soon as they hear my last name, they don't believe it. And I had to, just look it up on Google so you can find it.
Look it up on Google. A lot of good things come when you look up that name on Google. First
100%.
off, several years at the University of Illinois, going through 2 coaching changes. We don't see that in college football a lot these days.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, what the state of Illinois means to you and what Illinois football means to you.
Growing up in Illinois, I always was an Illini fan. Back in the day when they had the Chief, that was a very historic time. And then obviously we moved away from that due to some changes. But I always wanted to play for Illinois. I just didn't know how it would happen. Growing up, I played football for a little bit. Then I stopped playing. I went to play basketball. Then I went to high school my freshman year, and I got back, and I fell in love with it. And going into the summer of my senior year, I was at a camp in Lindenwood, actually, the mega camp, and Coach Smith, Lovey, he came up and offered me a scholarship. And 2 weeks later, I visited, and I committed that day, so pretty proud.
So during the recruiting process, you obviously start this, it all sounds good. I'm from New York originally. My goal was to play at Rutgers. Obviously didn't happen. It'd be a different podcast if it did. We'd probably have some more scarlet and red around all that stuff, scarlet and gray. But meeting Coach Smith at the mega camp, kind of that first step in this process, right? Of like, okay, I got the first, T-shirt, for lack of a better term. I can go compete or have the ability to compete at the, Power 5 level. When you got to Illinois with Coach Smith, meeting these coaches at the staff, what was that process like for you and just kind of really starting to soak it all in?
It was definitely a shock, more like a culture shock, because in college it's different from high school. In college, every position group, they really stick together, especially offensive line, because we all 5 had to play as one. And I had to really get used to that because I wasn't more of a lone wolf in high school, but it was only about 3 or 4 of us in my friend group that I closely, stuck with. But now it's 15 guys, and we're going to dinner together, doing extra work on the field, just hanging around all the time. And I had to get used to doing that because, sometimes if I go back to my room and lay down or just play the game or do something on campus. But getting adjusted to college, it probably took me about 2 years, I would say, 2 years to, finally buy in and be one as an offensive line unit.
Now, in the college football landscape, there's obviously a coaching change that happened while you were at Illinois. You go from Lovie Smith, respected NFL coach, to Brett Bielema, who had loads of success at Wisconsin. The way we see college football today, everyone's kind of going to the left, to the right. As soon as it doesn't work out, kids are bailing. I think the most amazing quality about your career is that you stuck it out. You went through the adversity. You stayed loyal to the school. That word commitment gets thrown around a lot. What do you say about that coaching transition, coaching change, whatever we want to call it? What do you say that speaks to the testament about that and your character?
It's all about perseverance. The way I grew up in my family, we're always taught to stick something out until, the wheels fall off. And you can't just run away from whatever problems you're dealing with. You have to face them head on. And I knew that when Coach Smith was released that, things are going to change. There's going to be a roster change. I was going to have a new position coach. So it took me some time to get used to it, to get with my new coach, Coach Miller, Coach B. It took me about a spring, just to get acclimated with them and understand their way of coaching. And honestly, it definitely paid off in the end.
Talk about your time on the field. Obviously, a lot of versatility for you, playing pretty much all over the offensive line, learning a new system, showing the adaptability, getting awarded, I believe you were awarded the six-man award from the University of Illinois. Talk about what that versatility meant for not only you playing the position and having success on the field, but also kind of retooling your mindset, strengthening your mental game a little bit at that fact as well.
I think it just playing multiple positions. It helped me understand the new offense that we had. Our first year at Coach B, we had a new offensive coordinator, and I wanted to learn the offense in and out. So I wanted to play all five, even if that was just during spring ball or during camp. And I told my coach that whenever it happens, I can play all five positions in the game. Somebody gets hurt, it doesn't matter. And going into the next year with Coach B, we had another OC, and I told him the same thing. That I could play all five. There's not a problem with that. I'm down for whatever. It might take me a practice or two just to get used to that position, but eventually I'll master it.
Now the training wheels are off now. No longer a student, did the right stuff at school. College football career is over. What's been the biggest transition for you going from collegiate athlete to now pursuing the professional career at the National Football League?
Honestly, I think it's the adjustment of time. In college, you're all in a system. You have to work out at this time. You have to be in class at a certain time. It's all that. It's a structure you have. And I'm not saying I don't have a structure now, but it's a different structure now. I work out at 5 p.m. every day instead of, working out at 6 a.m., then going to class, coming back, doing rehab or doing extra work. And so now everything is on your own. Nobody's holding you accountable, which is how it should be in college, but it's not. And now you're on your own in the real world trying, fight for a job.
Obviously, going through this draft cycle and whatnot, you're getting to meet so many different people. Is this kind of the common consensus around a lot of people right now, as far as a lot of players, where they're all kind of a little bit more wide-eyed, like this is a job. This isn't just me going to school and having someone saying lifts at 5, eat at 7, etc.
100%. At the Tropical Bowl, you can kind of tell, some of the guys, they were still adjusting to, going against completely different players than what they were going against in practice in the games. There were multiple conferences from Power 5 all the way down to, Division 3, and all of those are great players. And so it's definitely you have to quickly adjust, and that's something that scouts want to see because you have to do that in the NFL.
How did you feel when you first got down there, not only through the measurables and the interviews and whatnot, but once you got those pads on and started going against people that, you didn't go against while playing in the Big Ten, or guys you heard about on the ESPN and everything like that, kind of formulating it all together? And were you able to kind of find that same cohesiveness with your room despite only being around these guys for not too long?
It was definitely a quick adjustment, definitely in the first practice, learning how to talk to people, like during we get up to the line of scrimmage. Communication was completely different, but it's something you have to adjust to and learn. And, the biggest part about playing offensive line is communication. And going out there, I had to, quickly figure out who I was going against, what they like to do, what they don't like against offensive linemen. So it was definitely a fun time down there.
Is there anyone like that, any of your peers or any of the coaches down there that you felt that you really gelled with, and that you felt like you weren't even missing a step? It was like go-go and whatnot as well?
Definitely. There's a coach down there. His name is Arlo Henderson. He's actually from St. Louis originally, and now he's down there living in the Tampa area. And also my offensive line coach, he's a younger guy, and he's getting into the coaching game now. He played in the NFL and the CFL, so he's definitely making a name for himself. And, those two guys, I learned a lot from them in my short time down there, and I hope to continue to work with them in the future.
Kicking it back to Illinois a little bit, obviously Power 5 school, plenty of guys that have went to the NFL and whatnot. Is there any mentors that you have right now that you're reaching out to just kind of say, like, maybe somebody you don't want to talk to, a more informal conversation, more informal mentoring as far as versus like the agents, the coaches and whatnot, just someone you could feel a little bit more relaxed to kind of help you through this process as well?
Not necessarily, no. I learned a lot from my teammates who've already been in the league, just, when they come back to school, talking about their stories and their process and just seeing them go through it. Honestly, I was just accumulating all the information so I know what ammunition I need to go into it.
Have you seen that help you in the long run as far as just like, okay, I'm not going to win every battle, but it's not about, the last play, it's about the play coming up and whatnot. Obviously, I'm sure Coach Belima, who Wisconsin has bred lineman upon lineman upon lineman, has helped out with that. but it's always different to hear it from a peer versus, a superior or anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely. This process has been a little bit eye-opening for me. It's kind of weird because one day you could just be at the grocery store and the scout will call you like, hey, I really like you. I want to interview you tomorrow, and you're like, whoa. Compared to college, a coach will DM you on Twitter first. You talk for a while.
Yeah.
You need his phone number, and then you go down there for a visit, and maybe they offer you, but like now, it's hey, we like you. We want to come see you work out for us. So. It's definitely eye-opening.
The first phone call, I assume you were at the grocery store because that's when it happened. But that first phone call from, I don't know, if it's a Dallas number, an 847 or something like that came up. Not that happened, obviously. But that first phone call from that foreign area code, does that start making it a little bit more real?
Yeah, I would say so because I was just envisioning myself after I got off the phone. What would this be like for draft day? Just get a random phone call, hey, this is so-and-so from the team, and, we really like you. We want you to come down here. We're drafting you. We're signing you. So it's definitely a surreal feeling.
Talking forward, obviously pro day coming up and everything like that. What's your biggest focus regarding the pro day and continuing the prep for that and everything on that front?
I think, honestly, it's my 40-yard dash right now. That's what I've been grinding on every day this past week and the last week since I got back from Florida. It's just continuing to improve that, my first few steps and getting out. And so far, I've been making really good progress, so I'm happy about that.
What do you feel is your biggest upside to what you bring to any of the 32 teams?
I think it's versatility, honestly. NFL on the 53-man roster, you probably only have 7 to 8 linemen that you carry with you to a game that dress. So, if somebody gets hurt, so I can step in for either of those positions.
Do you feel moving forward that, your versatility, some of the adversity you went through with coaching changes, your loyalty is also some of your biggest benefits that you can bring to a roster as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that'll pay off in the future. I don't know when it'll happen, but eventually it will happen to where I'm in that situation again. And, I'm not looking for the nearest exit. I'm trying to figure out how I can push through it and, get to the top of the mountain.
Now, while many people who are listening will know you from what you do on the field, who are you off the field?
Off the field, I'm more of a family person. Right now I'm staying at home with my family. My mom, my dad, my sister, every night we eat dinner together. During the day, my sister's at school. She's in high school right now. My mom's working, my dad's working, so I'm at home until I go work out. Either I'm cleaning the house, playing the video games, and a hobby I've really started to get into about 2 or 3 years ago is collecting hats and shoes.
When you talk about the collecting the hats and the shoes and something like that, how'd you get into that?
It started there in 2020 when we all got sent home from school. I bought my first hat from Lids.
Dude.
It was like a plain Jane basic hat, Cardinals hat. And I knew it was something I wanted to get into. I just didn't know how far I would go because, once you get to the more exclusive hats, they start to cost a little bit more. So.
Yeah, I've seen that you have the Instagram page for it as well. They got some pretty awesome stuff. I'm big in the retro hats.
Yeah.
So if I see something from the Houston Oilers or now it's the the older versions of the defunct spring football leagues and whatnot. Mm-hmm. If I got a 2001 XFL team or something Memphis Maniac.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the coolest things I can see.
It's pretty cool, man. They're so expensive nowadays. The resale game is, ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, between that, shoes, everything on that front, it's definitely a wild goose chase a little bit. But if you go on Royal Retros, and this isn't a plug, if you go on Royal Retros, they got some good stuff.
I'm about to check them out.
You have to. Yeah, if you're trying to get the vintage gear and whatnot.
Yeah.
Going, when we talked about it a little bit, but when you're at the Tropical Bowl and whatnot, everyone there in their mind is going to the NFL.
Yeah.
Everyone there has had some high level of success at whatever program they were at. Like you said, whether it be D3 or at a Power 5. Have you seen guys kind of bite off a little bit more than they can chew in some senses?
Yeah. You can kind of just tell, hearing a person talk. how they, play the game, their personality. You can kind of tell what kind of person they are, football-wise. If they're a big-headed player, they feel like everything should be handed to them or they don't have to work for it because of the success that they've already had. And then when they get beat, you can kind of tell they're not there mentally. They're not mentally strong. They're not mentally tough. And they can't fight back or bounce back from, their failures.
Walk me through some of these interviews down there. Obviously, you have a good team behind you. You have people that care about you. Do you feel that sometimes the mental prep and talking to these scouts is a little bit more daunting than actually getting on the field?
Yeah, because you really want to focus on the right thing to say. You don't want to say something bad, but honestly, I was just telling myself, just be yourself. And I'm not the biggest talker in the world. I'm not going to sit there and talk your ear off for 20 minutes. And I'm more of a feedback person. I want to hear what you have to say, get back feedback from you, and then I'll give you a response. So I was kind of a little bit hesitant about it, going into the interviews and during it, just focusing on making sure my words are clear and everything like that. And, it was a little bit stressful.
Obviously, essentially, we're pseudo doing a media tour right now. You're working with Trident Studios last week or a couple weeks ago, coming to hang out with me. I'm sure there'll be more and more, people in the DMs and whatnot. Has that kind of helped you open up a little bit more and just kind of, not sounding boastful, but just confident as far as like, this is who I am. I know what my abilities are. I know where my goals are. This is the part of the game essentially at this point. Another part of the game as far as being a professional athlete.
1,000%. Trident, it was a pretty great experience. Those two guys, they did a really great job with the interview and also the mic'd up during the first practice. People got to see, especially my family, what it's like for me being on a football field. I'm not the biggest talker, during practice or even, when I'm doing a rep. I'm kind of just focusing on what I need to do to get better out there and showcase myself. And so it was really good for everybody else to see what it's like for me out on the football field.
Well, when I was doing my workup for the interview, getting to know you a little bit, some of your Illinois mic'd up stuff is pretty good too. Yeah. And it definitely shows that other side. And there's so many, I don't want to use the word gentle giant, but there's so many guys that like you would expect to be talking more smack and whatnot, and they're just adults on the field. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to line up in my stance, and we're going to run a stretch play, and you're going to be on the sideline. So, like, deal with it or don't,
Yeah, I always kind of grew up like that. I'm not the biggest talker in the world, especially, when it comes to smack talk. During football, guys will talk to you. It's all a mental game, especially if you don't say anything back to them. You just line up and put them in the dirt again. It really does a lot for them more mentally than it does for me. So
I always like the stories of, like, running back will get 7 yards, maybe make a guy miss, and he's talking a lot of trash, and then the guy just points at the scoreboard, and it's like, you're down 14 points, bro. Yeah. Like, I need you to calm down a little bit.
Time is old as tell right there. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, to me, seeing that, like, I'm very, whether it be football, whether it be coaching, whether it be, business, it's a performance-based entity, and to see that more people are going back and, like, just kind of like, hey, man, like, reel it in a little bit, and you see some of these guys kind of wash out who, look for the statistical prowess versus the overall team success. Like, that, to me, I always, like, gravitate more towards guys like that who it's like, it's not I, it's we. And I know that's a little cliche, but I think it's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I think the game is starting to get away from that, more of a team standpoint. A lot of guys are starting to, just focus on them and make sure, they're being the superstar of the team. But I think it falls back to the position I play, offensive line. It's 5 guys, doing one job, protecting, quarterback, running back, whoever else is in the backfield. And, we don't care about, statistics. Obviously, we don't have any unless we have a penalty.
Yeah, right.
But other than that, nobody knows who we are until, there's a flag on the ground.
Something that a coach told me years ago is we work the hardest, we're known the least, but we're the reason why. And I always like the 5 as one, right? Because you got 5 fingers, and unless they come together, that's when we can really run the ball and we can really punch people. I mean, it's all coach talk, but I think there's some semblance of that. And moving, towards the NFL, or when you're talking to these scouts and whatnot, is that something they're really like pressing up on as well, as far as like coming into camp, and if they choose to draft you or sign you or anything?
Not really. They just want to get more of the background. We talked about a little bit earlier about the loyalty and why I chose to stay at Illinois throughout, a little bit of our struggles and coaching changes. And, I just told them, being loyal is one of the biggest things who I am as a person. It's one of my core values is loyalty, and they never did anything wrong to me. And, even if there was something that did happen, we can just talk it out and work it out as men.
How much pride does it bring you to be an in-state guy to represent the Orange Eye? Or is it an Orange Eye, or is it like some weird?
It's Orange Eye, yeah.
But I mean, how it's like, you have colors and it's like seafoam orange or something like.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird orange, but it brings me a lot of pride, especially when I come home. I'm always wearing my Illinois stuff because I have too much of it, obviously. Yeah. But going around, people always ask me to play to Illinois, or they know who I am. And, I kind of didn't think I was a hometown hero per se. I didn't think that many people knew who I was, my name. But every time I go out somewhere, people are noticing me. So, honestly, it's a good booster, not for my ego, but, just to know that people know who I am, just to get my name out there.
Well, not only that, it also just supports your high school program. Yeah. I always tell guys, when you go to these big schools, if you touch the NFL, if you play in the NFL, if you do great things in business, it's not so much even about you. It's about like the lowest form, isn't it? It's about like your first level of like high school. Like, Jordyn Slaughter, he played 10 years in the NFL, played in all these games, started these games. Or Jordyn Slaughter, he went to start his own company, and now this company employs 70 people who all have good paying jobs. Like, there's these two avenues that people should have pride in, that it's not only like the NFL or bust, but like these young men who get good college degrees and whatnot can go out and actually be like, entrepreneurs and like employing people and whatnot. And I think that kind of gets lost sometimes, and like having that pride in your high school where you came from, a lot of that stuff.
I think it's big, being from a small town. I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois. Went to Alta Catholic High School in Belleville. It was a small private school, probably about 300 kids.
Yep.
Went there when I graduated. So, a lot of people from my school have been successful already. Some in my class. Shout out to Jack Mayer. Mm-hmm. He's playing with the Nashville soccer team. So he's been doing pretty good. I just want my life to be successful. It doesn't necessarily have to be in football, but that's the reason I went to college, and I left there with 2 degrees so I can have something to fall back on.
It's funny you talk about Althoff. And the first time I ever heard your name, I was talking to a kid from Althoff.
Okay.
And he, he's looking to play college football, and I was like talking to him, seeing what his deal was. And he was like, I want to come to your school, but there are some guys that like went to like through my program, and this kid's way younger than you, so you didn't play with him. But he dropped your name, and he's like, but I think it's cool that like we have a guy at Illinois who's contributing to that team. Yeah. And this is a kid that's 6 years younger than you, maybe more. I don't remember if he was a junior or senior. And when I saw your, reach out to you, I was like, man, I've heard this name before and whatnot. So just to show that impact you're having on some younger kids and whatnot, to me, is special in its own right. And this is a kid you probably never met before.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's something that's really crucial, not just for you, but anyone, going back to their high school and whatnot.
Oh yeah, we have a great program at Althoff. We have really two good players, 3 good players right now. They're being heavily recruited by some D1 schools. And so it's pretty good to see my school get back in the ranks, get back up there as a competing program, hopefully win a state title here soon. And, I didn't think I would leave that everlasting effect there, once I left. But my offensive line coach, Jake Campbell, he was the one who really helped me through this recruiting process, and helped me ever since I've been in school and even out now. So it's been good.
I think that's extremely crucial to mention as well, is like you obviously graduate from the school, you go on to do have your career, and the fact that like people in your community still support you and like still are looking out for you and doing their best. Because while mom and dad, parents do an amazing job, they don't always know what's up
Right.
in certain aspects. My dad's a contractor. He doesn't know anything about football. He can't really help me out. You know what I mean? So it comes back to that. Jordyn, as draft day gets closer and closer and the feeling of reality keeps coming, like this is something that, we dream about and whatnot, how crazy is it that, like, looking back on it, the last 6 years, that like dreams are pretty close to coming to a reality? Nothing's guaranteed, but
Right.
it's closer than for most.
It's definitely surreal to think that right there on the edge, you're in that 1% now of after, you make it out of college and you have a chance to make it to the NFL. It's pretty big to think that, you almost have your foot in the door. So it's been surreal right now.
Jordyn, we talk about this process. We've talked about your ties to Illinois, the impact you've had on the community. We've talked about what you bring to NFL teams, NFL scouts, wrapping it all together in this final little segment and whatnot. What is something that you really want to verbalize to not only people in the front office, but just people who are just, watching you since you were a kid coming through this journey?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported me. My mom always told me it takes a village, to raise a child. And I felt that all throughout my life, from my close family to extended family, even to people who I call relatives now. You've all been a blessing in this journey, helping support me through the tough times and the good times, And I'm just thankful to be here, to have an opportunity to make to the next level and hopefully, make my family proud and, make our family name even more special.
Well, I mean, taking the last name Slaughter and making it even more special, never an easy thing. Now, I have a test for you.
Mm-hmm.
What NFL team do you want to get drafted to the most?
Honestly, anybody.
That's the right answer.
Anybody, I just want the opportunity, to showcase my abilities, my God-given abilities that I have. And, whoever calls me on that day, I'll be more than excited to join, no matter who they are.
And what type of player are they going to get?
Loyal, hardworking, committed to the cause, whatever those teams' values are. I'll mold right into the player you want me to be on and off the field. You won't have to worry about any issues. From that, I'll just stay down, put my head down, and work hard every day.
Awesome. Well, Jordyn, I appreciate you coming through, man. Good solid 30 minutes talking to you. A little bit of a break, a little bit of extended break, but everything good on that front. Jordyn, where can people find you at if they want to get to know you a little bit better?
You can follow me on Instagram. My name is Slaughter, SLAUGHTER.66_ on Instagram. Twitter, it's Slaughter66_. Those are the main two platforms I'm on. So you want to reach out, have any questions, or just want to have a conversation, my DMs are always open, so just shoot me a message.
Jordyn, thank you so much for coming on, man. Best of luck to you, and I can't wait to have you on in May when you tell me what NFL team. We could do it like signing day, where you have the hats up. I think that would be pretty rad.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Especially if it's an older franchise, we'll have the oldest hats, and then we'll like pick which one, and I'll be wearing the shirt.
That'd be cool. We can definitely do that.
You got all the Illinois gear. You could probably throw me one.
Yeah, I got you.
Might be a little big, but thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.